Trapped Australians in India say they feel abandoned by the federal government's decision to pause flights between the two countries. Live to Jonathan Lee in Canberra. Jonathan, we're hearing claims of discrimination today.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Ash. It's certainly a topic discussed by Tim Costello. He raises the question, why did we not close our borders with the United States? Why didn't we close them to the United Kingdom? Why now are we closing them to India? He also talks about what's being called vaccine apartheid, the fact that the world's poorest nations have just 1.3% of the world's vaccines. The richest nations have more than 50%, despite making up less than 10% of the world's population. He also goes on to say that what does citizenship get you? It's supposed to enable you to come home during times of crisis.
I hear the cries of the Australian Indian community. We didn't block Australians in America from coming back. Why are we doing this? Now, you can't bring them into hotel quarantine, but citizenship usually gives you one thing: the right to come home when there's war or disaster. We say to refugees and asylum seekers, you can't come, you're not a citizen. We're all very clear about that. But now we're applying this to Australian Indian citizens and, we can't have them in our hotels, but we have other options, and I think we should be immediately exploring those, such as Christmas Island.
Ash, now yesterday there did seem to be a somewhat hollow comment or a promise from the Prime Minister saying that Australia stands with India, that at a time where it's preventing Australian Indians from returning back home. Mahinda Mehta is an Australian currently in India. He went over to help his father, who was having open heart surgery. His father passed away. He's now with his mother and he can't get back home. He says he certainly feels abandoned by the Australian government.
Government has abandoned us. They have just, left us in a war zone. Instead of, pulling us out from the war zone, they have abandoned us and told us, you're on your own. So I've already lost my father. I'm trying to save my mother here, but nobody is showing compassion.
There are certainly many sad stories emerging, Jonathan, but despite the new rules, despite the hardship we're learning about from Australians stuck overseas, it seems that Australians can continue to travel, to get on planes, to head overseas under certain circumstances.
Yeah, there's a lot of vagaries here, isn't it? There's only so many positions in hotel quarantine, but can Australians continue to still travel overseas where the government deems that it's a priority, that it's important to do so? Alex Hawke, the Immigration Minister, was on Sky today saying Australians can still go overseas, they can still go for weddings, they can still go to funerals, despite the fact that states are making it increasingly difficult to get back into the country and to go into that quarantine system.
Well, certainly we see the situation with India. The system will be tighter in relation to that. But in terms of exemptions, we need to be able to move people for urgent reasons around the place.
Is a wedding one of them?
Well, it can be, depending on the situation. It can be.
Right,
Absolutely.
so next week someone could still go overseas,
it could be, yes.
Go to a wedding and come back through quarantine.
It could be, yes. And there can be situations, but maybe not to India in this situation at the moment.
Ash, so the point being made now is the undue pressure, the pressure being placed on the quarantine system. Now, some people might think that's why the quarantine system has been set up, to bring people back who might have COVID. They go into there, they come out effectively safe and healthy, and they go back into society. Gladys Berejiklian earlier this morning making the point that tomorrow will be a rise in the number of people with COVID coming back into Australia, going into double digits. It's something the Premiers, most notably Mark McGowan, has been saying puts too much pressure on the system and something they can't be stomaching at the moment.
When you have a certain category and certain number of people with the disease getting on the same plane, getting on the same transport, it does just increase the risk of everybody on that mode getting the disease. And I was just advised overnight, we've already had double-digit new cases in our quarantine system, which we'll report on tomorrow. But the increasing incidence of disease in some parts of the world is very substantial. It's impacting us in our quarantine system.
Ash, now just finally the latest statistics out of India. Barry O'Farrell tells us that there's currently 3,600 deaths in the past 24 hours. Those figures are deemed to be actually much higher. They're not being recorded at the moment. Some 9,000 Australians currently remain trapped. 600 of those are listed as vulnerable. Many, though, are thought to be with friends and family. Ash.
Jonathan Lee live in Canberra, thank you.